driving in Phoenix. Are we recording right now?
Yeah,
Is this happening?
we're always recording.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, I don't mean to be so East Valley. He laughs. The downtowner laughs.
You know what? I have to drive to Mesa for work every day, and I'm like, how do people out here do it? I don't. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I was having coffee with Shane Kennedy, who is the Phoenix's original hipster, and totally lugubrious. And he's like, anything outside of the 7 to 7 is not worth talking about. Just like 7th Street to 7th Ave, and that's it. And I was just like, wow.
Well, I don't think I'm quite that way, but everything that you need is in there.
I put the me in Mesa. I love it. It's great. Traffic's so much better. Food's great. There's somebody who dances that we see at the bus stop every day on our way to work.
Oh, that's cool.
I mean, there's some real moves happening at this bus stop.
I've had to go out to Mesa for a few things. There are parts of Tempe that I like. I don't know. I don't know. I do. I prefer the bustling city where I love it just as much as I complain about it. Mm-hmm. Which is probably why I always feel most at home when I visit LA.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah. It is. But we're not here to talk about my love of the city.
Okay.
We're here to talk about Confessions from the Nocturne Nebula. I can say that.
Yeah.
I'm tripping over.
We can say it really well at this point.
All the time.
We've been saying it a lot.
Well practiced.
Yes.
It's, but do you ever feel like, so I'm always really proud of myself when I come up with clever titles for things or clever names for things. Like the last couple of podcasts I came up with were Album Infinitum, which I have a lot of trouble saying. It always sounds like I'm drunk. Or Apocalyptic Popsicle. That was the other one. Uh-huh. And if I'm trying to talk fast, it's just I'll always screw it up at least once or twice.
Yeah, I'm not a very verbal person. I'm very much written word. So there are certain things that we wrote into the script that I still have trouble saying. And thank goodness I was not part of the full cast because I couldn't have said them.
There were definitely a couple of turns of phrase that, on retrospect, maybe we could have made simpler.
Yeah. This whole process, it was a learning process. There was much learning during the course of making Confessions from the Nocturne Nebula. So, yeah.
Now, let's start with how you guys met. How did you guys?
Oh my goodness. So we were both theater kids. And so we met like in middle school.
Oh, wow. So this is a long-standing.
Yeah. And, Dale is a very talented writer. And, so when I started thinking about moving fiction into a podcast form, I thought he would be a great person to partner with to kind of develop a script and help bring that to life because he has that background in performance and, like I said, a very talented writer. So.
And big fan going way back to the old radio dramas, 30s and 40s, and that kind of old time radio aesthetic.
Yeah.
So
and we both read a lot of noir.
Maybe too much.
Stuff.
Maybe too much.
I grew up really enjoying my grandfather would always have cassettes of The Shadow or I loved and continue to love the original Hitchhiker's Radio play. That whole thing with the, I love that it can be something that you can, when I was a kid anyway, now if I'm listening, I'm usually driving, so I can't do what I did as a kid, which is just kind of close my eyes and sort of absorb it. Because now if I close my eyes and absorb it, I'll crash into something.
Well, we expect you to listen at home to the new series.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah. Because it can be listened to, it'll be able to be listened to anywhere.
Yeah.
Indeed.
The magic of podcasts.
Yeah, exactly. But what, did you guys, had you written anything together prior to this? Had you collaborated with anything before?
No.
And you guys are still friends?
Yeah, surprisingly, but it's because we had like a long-standing friendship that was like very well established before we embarked upon this. So when it came to like arguing about the script, we realized that our friendship was more important than any single project. It's hard to write with someone. It was definitely a different experience. I'm sure Dale will attest to that because,
It was fantastic that Carly had that mindset, because that allowed me to say, no, not the scene has to go this way. The character doesn't behave this way.
The man is a fan of tropes.
Oh, yes.
So, yes.
Well, I mean, when you're working with a genre like that, when you're working with noir, they've got to stick to the plan.
Yeah. Got to paint with the colors in the kit.
Yeah, absolutely. But you guys you have a sort of unique science fiction spin to it. Yes, this is the idea,
because we wanted it noir, but in the future.
Future noir,
space noir.
Yeah, I'm a huge science fiction nerd. And so, working with YabYum and doing all these projects, I do a lot of writing. And so in my free time, I love to write science fiction. And so, I'd kind of been toying around with some of these things, and it would just, in figuring out, podcasting, we thought it would be fun to try and move it into a podcast form.
I'm a huge fan of the genre. I love science fiction, always have since I was a kid, but I've never been able to write it. It just never. There's something I don't know. It's the idea of like world building and kind of futuristic sort of stuff just never fell out of the pen for me. How did you guys kind of
I don't know. World building is my favorite part of any endeavor. Yeah. So I love that. And it was kind of strange. So I had, some kind of tentatively sketched out like this future universe, and had been working on a story about an antiques dealer, and then decided that to kind of maybe. And then when we decided...
Carly's gesticulating wildly.
Which is,
there's a lot of hand gestures.
Yeah.
Thanks for bringing it back to the moment. Yeah. So it was just, with working with Dale, we, kind of came to a specific character, put it in this future world, kind of had to work out details as we went. Mm-hmm. And so there was a lot of going back and forth on, we had a basic structure, and then building this world and this very particular story, because it is more about a character than about a place, I would say, this series.
Definitely. As Carly said, she had some really fantastic ideas of what the world and what really more the world, what the universe kind of was. And then from there, that gave us enough space and enough breadth that we were able to kind of say, okay, well, what sort of story do we want to tell? What's the direction we want to go? And kind of ties back to what you were saying about science fiction, about how it's not always the easiest thing to write.
Yeah.
Because it's a trick. You have to find, it's got to be out there enough to be sci-fi, but it's got to be relatable and human enough, or otherwise there's no point in telling the story.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? And so as we got to start, as we started talking, I remember the first thing that Carly said to me about this. She called me over to her house one day and she said, "What do you know about podcasts?" And I said,
it was very early that we started this.
I said, enough that question is a little bit difficult to answer without some more context. And then from there, we just started going. She started telling me about this universe. She started talking to me about some of the kinds of characters and some of the possibilities that she saw for stories within this universe, and a wide breadth of stories. And it was almost it was an embarrassment of riches, because there was almost too much to choose from. So we started having to kind of talk about, as she said, what kind of character did we want to focus on to be the introductory story, the gateway for folks to kind of get used to this universe. And that's where we settled on Confessions from the Nocturne Nebula.
Yeah, but I would say that when we started talking about developing this show, we had a built-in performer. I've known Dale as a performer, from when we were younger all the way up to he did comedy. So he has this really great voice. My nephews call him the man with the cowboy voice. That's how they like to refer to him.
Which I'm looking into trademarking.
Yeah. So, we knew that we had a performer who could carry a off whatever we wrote, that we could at least, if nobody else wanted to be a part of this,
Sure.
at least we had a great lead.
Well, and can you do a good Sam Elliott from Lebowski?
Well, keep on, dude. I wish I could remember one of Sam Elliott's lines. I'm suddenly blanking. I can see him there at the bar at the bowling alley.
I put you on the spot, to be fair.
Sarsaparilla.
There you go. Yeah, that's a good sarsaparilla.
Yeah. So it kind of worked out that we built this character, Nolan Stone, together. And a lot of the inspiration for that was that.
It's a great hard-boiled name.
He chose it himself.
He did.
Well done.
Yeah. So, it was a great project, and thankfully we did have a lot of interest in people wanting to take on roles or participate in the production, and so I'm glad we had a lead. But there was a lot of interest in getting it cast. We were worried for a minute, and then it worked out okay.
Did you have any particular writers in mind as you were doing this? Some stuff that you had enjoyed that kind of.
I think when we started, we've done some Sam Spade novels, and there's definitely been some back and forth with Dashiell Hammett and different things over the years. I think when we started this particular project, I gave you a copy of Lawrence Block. Was that it?
Oh, okay.
Lawrence Block, and what I personally bring to it, as I say, was a big fan of all the radio shows. Specifically, my genre was the detective shows, and for me, it was Raymond Chandler and Gerald Moore as Philip Marlowe was kind of my touchstone. So I think that for me, that was really that was my North Star. That was what I always kind of wanted to hit, was at least something that felt like it could have come out of
tonally that
character.
Sort of gotcha.
Yeah.
Very cool. And how did you? So it sounds like the idea is a sort of ongoing thing.
Yeah. So, like I said, this whole podcast project was a bit of a learning process. We started talking about doing the Nocturne before YabYum had done any other podcasting.
Okay.
We spent 6 months writing it before we went into production, and during that time, Mark and I were developing other podcasts. So we launched. We had experience with doing the radio show with Radio Phoenix for so many years, and then turning that into a Mixcloud podcast. That we started releasing other podcasts like Prize Fighting Kangaroo, The Mortician's Daughter, Band Basics, some of the podcasts through the YabYum network, and kind of got a feel for how podcasts work.
Or don't.
While we were writing and then putting this into production and then going through all of that, because it's been a couple of years to get this project fully fleshed out.
I know. I remember it has been a while since you first mentioned it to me, and I mean, so did you? But did you begin to go ahead and then absorb more podcasts along the way? Because there's a lot that are terrible too. So you also want to learn what to avoid and all that sort of thing. And
we did. It was a bit of a challenge, I'll say, in the couple of years that we've been putting this together. This style of podcast I've seen more of than I ever had before. This sort of performative, more of a fully fleshed out audio drama.
Yeah.
There as we started, there weren't really a lot of examples of that I could go and point to, or at least that I was familiar with. And then once we had kind of decided on doing it, and we had begun to sort of get at least a vague picture of tonally what it would feel like and the colors and the shape of it, well, at that point, then anything that was of that stripe, I wanted to sort of keep away from.
Sure.
From that point on, I wanted to kind of put on a moratorium, because you
didn't want it to seep into your own work.
Exactly. You don't want to get to a point where you're just aping the last thing that you listen to.
Right. Yeah, it's like, okay, did I see the original or did I see the Simpsons version? It's this. It goes right back to that. You don't want to be concerned about, okay, is this my idea or did I hear this somewhere? You know.
I am vaguely terrified that someone's going to point out that The Simpsons did an episode with our exact plot in season 17 that I was just never aware of.
Oh, my goodness.
At this point, there's probably more Simpsons that I haven't seen than I have because I stopped watching after a while. I just couldn't anymore. But yeah,